It's a me, Adam.
And it's me, Steve.
And this is the Adam and Steve show. And we're here to talk to you guys about movies and stuff. And what is movies if not Marvel movies? But it's not going well right now. Can you tell me why, Steve?
Yeah, there is a major thing going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it is
Mm.
Jonathan Majors himself. Kind of like the guy I've been toting as the next big thing for the past few months, and a lot of other people have been doing the same. Unfortunately, there's been some news that in his own personal life, he's not the nicest guy.
He's got accused of sexual assault by one person. We had text messages, we had a video, and then other people came out and accused him as well. And so
What
clearly he has a history with this thing.
was it sexual assault or was it just battery like assault that way, like beating women? I don't know if it was necessarily sexual or not.
I think it inherently, since it was the I don't know, and that's
I
kind
just
of
don't
gonna.
want to. I just don't want to throw out two things, and this is all alleged because this is a legal matter too, so we don't want to
Mhm.
ruffle any feathers that way. But yeah, either regardless, it's not good, and he's already been thrown out by his people that represent him and everything like that. And honestly, Disney hasn't pulled the trigger yet, I don't think, but it's only inevitable at this point, I assume, because
Mhm.
everything legally, more people have been coming out saying that he's bad too. So honestly, everything he's done with Creed, and he had a really promising future with Kang being like the next big bad, but that's probably going to be recast by somebody else at this point, and I think it's well deserved because if this is all really true, then fuck him.
Yeah, I will say my take on this subject is, especially with all the cancel culture stuff going around, I've decided that I'm going to separate art from the artist, and I'm still going to be able to enjoy the movies that he was in.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's in any other movies, I will refrain from trying to support them. But I see everything. I'm gonna see the movies. If he's in King Dynasty, I'm gonna see it. I'm not the morality police, and I also know that these celebrities with millions of dollars don't live by the same rules that I live by, and I don't really care about them. I care about what they're in, not about them. So bad person. I really don't like when people are assaulted and committing crimes, and that's terrible. And I makes me feel real bad. But it's not my life. It's his life, and I don't know much about it clearly. So I decline to have an opinion.
Yep. Well, my opinion in the matter is if he's a bad person, if he's abuser of
Mm,
others, then I just won't spend my money on art that he's in and other stuff that he's been in. Creed 3 being one of my favorite movies of the year still. It's not going to tarnish Creed 3 for me because he
mm,
wasn't the only one behind making that movie, but will I support his future efforts? I will probably try to avoid it similar to how I avoid
mm,
other people now when they come up. Like I don't necessarily say I'm canceling them. I'm just choosing not to partake in that art anymore, and it's
mm,
unfortunate with some people, but yeah, I'm not the morality police either. I'll still watch old Kevin Spacey stuff, so I'm
mm,
guilty of that. But yeah, I just Jonathan Majors, it really sucks because he had such really good range when it came to his acting and stuff too. But yeah, I think this is definitely going to tarnish a lot of where his upward momentum was going at this point. It's definitely
mm. The one thing I will say is insensitive. Besides the fact, obviously, I will say, I do think he's a bad person. If he did the things that people are saying that he did, he's a bad person. I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see anything. I believe what people are saying, especially, but I uh, I don't care about the noise. And like you said, I think that's perfect. Yeah, I'm still gonna enjoy the movies, and I will refrain from trying to support them. And I don't blame anyone who don't won't support it at all. But
Mhm.
it's just a real messy, awkward situation. Anyone who's like, "Oh, but what's gonna happen to the MCU?" Like, shut up. Like, it's the multiverse thing already. So just have him recast. And oh, he looks like that now. That's just the way that it is now, I guess.
People get recast all the time. No one was really bitching when Terrence Howard got thrown out of the MCU either, because honestly, they did better for it. And I think they might even find somebody that might even fit this role too. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that could probably fill the role, maybe even better than Jonathan Majors. We don't know. So, is it going to be recast? I can almost guarantee it. And honestly, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, everyone was like fawning over his performance in Ant-Man Quantumania. They're like, well, the movie's bad, but at least he's good. Like, shut up. No, no, he wasn't. He was fine. I didn't care about him. I didn't like him in Loki. I don't care for him now. I thought he was really good in Creed 3. I can't lie about that. And Devotion. I think Devotion's really good as well.
I
But
haven't seen Devotion yet, and I've heard is it the last black man in San Francisco that he was in that really got big for him?
oh, I need to see that. I just
Yeah,
watched one recently, the If Beale Street Could Talk. It's that and Last Black Man in San Francisco, two that were very high on my list, so I need to watch that.
yep, I've
But
seen Beale
I
Street. I
guess
haven't
not
seen.
now.
Yeah, yeah, I might still check it out because I mean, there's other people that made the movie and stuff. That's where I kind of can put my aside to it. He's not the director, he's not the writer. Like that's where I can put my aside to some things. But it just sucks to look at him sometimes and just realize, think back to the stuff and be like, if this is true, then that's just awful. But you know what?
Speaking of really,
Sorry, I think we're on a delay or something. It's I like started talking, then you started to talk. Well, speaking of all this major mess, we got another mess to look at with our delayed Marvel movie, and that is Captain Marvel 2. Now, we both kind of have a history with Captain Marvel. I mean, one time I pretty remember in my apartment, we got pretty
mm,
drunk and tried to watch Captain Marvel and we're kind of just yelling at the screen for a while.
it's so
I've
boring.
Yeah, I've kind of come around to it a little bit with certain parts of it, but it is a very boring movie, and I think we were all just tired of it and tired of the night as well.
hmm Yeah, I'm not a fan of Captain Marvel very much. I do appreciate the fact that it was the first female-led MCU superhero movie. I think that matters. That doesn't like absolve it. And it's like, oh well, it's good because of inclusivity. I just think it deserves credit and recognition for that. But as a movie itself, I think that it's very subpar. I think it's like one of my bottom three MCU movies. But the Marvels coming out is a movie that combines characters that we've seen in the MCU. Obviously, we have Captain Marvel, but she's teaming up with the girl from WandaVision.
Yeah, I forget what the character's name is. And my brother was
Mm-hmm.
telling me about it a little bit, but and also the girl from what's that show called? I really like that show on Disney Plus, Little Girl.
No, I watched that movie, Miss Marvel. It
Yeah.
was actually pretty good at first, and then it just devolved into the like typical like superhero show. I stopped paying attention to these superhero shows. I still haven't seen Hawkeye or the Captain Falcon show. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Winter Soldier is actually pretty fun. Captain America and Falcon, whatever it's called. That's a fun show. But the other one, yeah, it's Hawkeye's
Mm-hmm.
okay. I really enjoyed Miss Marvel though for what it was, and I liked the different story with her family and everything. Thought that was all pretty fun. But yeah, I'm excited for this upcoming movie too. But it seems to be like I don't know what's really going on. I don't really know the story with Captain Marvel 2 or whatever. So I don't really have that many expectations, and I haven't watched the trailer yet. So what are you kind of seeing here?
I watched half of the trailer because I was like, I'm good. Like I'm doing that a lot lately, where like I'll just cut myself off and be like, yeah, I got enough information. That's fine. And I work at the theater, so I'm gonna see these trailers all the time, anyways. I think that I am a 23-year-old man, and this is a movie that's made for like 13-year-old girls, and that's okay. And I'm sure that other people could enjoy it, not just 13-year-old girls. I just think that I am not the exact target demographic for this, and I do think that impacts my on the movie because like I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, this is kind of like cringy and whatever. But like I could so see like a 13-year-old girl being like, yeah, I love these superheroes. I look up to them so much. So I relate to Miss Marvel. And then she teams up with her absolute heroes. And that looks so cool. And we're going to space and we're combining all these things together. And it's going to be so much fun. And yeah, I've heard people say that it looks like fun and looks like it has a lot of personality. And I'm happy about that. I actually was wanting to buy stock, if you can buy stock in movies. I wanted to buy stock in Captain Marvel 2 because I was like, well, it made $1 billion. They're going to make a sequel. And I think that they're going to learn from their previous mistakes. And I think that they're going to make a movie that will be better. And I think this will be better than that first movie.
Yeah, and I think Brie Larson's a really good actress, and I think that first one was maybe just I don't necessarily blame it on her. I mean, all the performances were kind of a little bit off in a way it felt, but
Mm-hmm.
I think this one's gonna be a lot better. It has this other cast around her, like the girl from WandaVision, I loved that character honestly from the little bit we got, and the seeing that she has these powers that are kind of pretty strong and interesting, as well as this Miss Marvel character, her kind of honing her powers still. That this dynamic could be a lot of fun to play with. Yeah, and I don't really know any of the future going on with the MCU right now too, so it's going to be interesting to see how much more they kind of build up in this new phase that we're playing with. But at the same time, like Marvel stuff's I'm kind of indifferent about it anymore. Like I don't have that same excitement I used to, but I'm not like sad. The same thing kind of with Star Wars shows, like on Disney Plus. I watched the first episode of the new season of Mandalorian and haven't caught up since. Never watched any of the Andor stuff, but it's not like I'm mad at it. I just kind of don't care anymore.
No, I'm right there with you. I've not watched the rest of Andor, and I did not see the Mandalorian season 3 yet. I've heard all about what people don't like about it, and Mando had a hallway scene, and it was almost as cool as Obi-Wan's hallway scene, which was almost as cool as Luke Skywalker's hallway scene, which is almost as cool as Darth Vader's hallway scene. I want C-3PO to have a hallway scene, but no, this is going to be fine. I think it'll be okay. I don't think there'll be anything as iconic as there's a reason why they call it the cockpit. That's one of my favorite lines in any Marvel movie ever. That's so funny. And then when she kicks the jukebox and the alien thing, and it plays "I'm Just a Girl" as she beats up the bad guys, which I understand because she's just a girl, but she's not because she's like a hero.
Yeah.
So I obviously I have clear disdain for that first movie, but I'm excited for this one. But my main feeling comes from an interview that was with Brie Larson, where someone was like, "Oh, you're gonna be in another Captain Marvel movie?" And she's like, "I don't know. Do people want me to be in another Captain Marvel movie?" And like, she seems like she's burned out from this, and I don't think that this is something she really wants to do anymore. And I think
Well,
that's sad.
I think it's partially because she's also a person that's on the internet a bit more than some other celebrities, it seems like. So she probably is more in direct contact with some of these people that just want to talk shit to her, and she sees the trolls, so it probably affects her a bit more than other people. So I can see that probably playing a part in her not wanting to continue when so many people were just talking shit last time when it wasn't
Yeah,
a great movie, but she didn't really deserve all the hate she got.
I don't blame her. You know,
No, I think there was a lot of people involved that could have definitely played a bigger part to make that movie better. But overall, I'm excited to see where this franchise goes. I have younger nieces who will grow up and probably watch these movies, and if they can find a good hero in Captain Marvel, then that's awesome. The same kind of
yeah.
thing, like I actually, to get us off of this, 'cause I think we're about done with this topic, but another movie that kind of plays into that adolescence role that I actually got to see an early screening of, the Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I saw that last weekend with my mom,
Ah,
or last week with my mom. That is
mm-hmm.
very much in the same realm of not me being the target audience whatsoever. It's all about growing up and like young girls getting their period and shit like that. And it made me a bit uncomfortable being there with my mom. But she grew up with this book. It literally came out the year she was born and she read it as a kid. So it was fun to experience that with her and seeing that she was smiling and telling me about the different stuff in the movie that she already had known from the book and everything like that. So if you're a fan of the book and you're growing up and you're of the age where you're going through puberty and stuff like that, it's a really fun movie. And it has the little girl that's from Ant-Man actually. The girl
She's
that
in
played
the new V show with Maria Menounos, and she's
ah
really good at the game. You
yes,
know,
yes.
she got a perfect score.
I forgot about that. Yeah. So she's
Mm-hmm.
fun in it. And the cast around her, I think one of the guy from Uncut Gems, the director, Safdie or
Safdie,
whatever.
Josh
Yeah.
Safdie or Benny
It
Safdie.
was Benny Safdie and Rachel
Mm.
McAdams were the parents. And the grandma was Kathy Bates, and it's a fun cast, and it's cool for that audience. They're gonna enjoy it.
Will I like it?
Maybe. I mean, it's definitely it has some cheesy humor, and it's literally set in 1970, and it captures it with all the different like set design, the costuming and stuff. So if you're down for a little adolescent comedy, I mean, it's the same director as Edge of 17, which I personally really enjoyed that movie, and it has that same kind of like coming
Mm-hmm.
of age storyline to
Yeah.
it. So if you enjoy that, I think you'll probably get a kick out of it. I gave it like a 3.5 out of 5. I enjoyed myself.
Okay, good, good, good. Yeah, that's one of the rare times where you're seeing something before me here, huh?
Yeah.
Hmm. But speaking of seeing movies in the theater, one that I watched recently that I had a really good time with. I usually have my sports things behind me, but I'm on vacation at the beach. But Air was one that I had a really good time with. Did you enjoy it?
I did. I think it was pretty fun. I wish I knew more about the story, honestly, and I want to watch a documentary that kind of dives in more because I don't know a whole lot about Phil Knight either, and I kind of wish we knew a little bit more about Phil Knight in the story, but that wasn't really the story they were telling in this one. But I liked how they kind of played with the whole. They didn't really show Michael Jordan that much. It was really focused on them building the brand around the shoe and everything, and everyone building their own little parts to it. And the main thing that I really enjoyed about this was the cast, obviously. We had people like Ben Affleck also directing, and then Matt Damon, Jason Bateman, just everybody else in there too. Chris Tucker, who I haven't really seen in a lot of stuff lately, but I loved him in this movie. And
Hmm.
yeah, it was just the cast mainly that really sold me on this one.
I'm a good Ben Affleck fan. I went and back and watched Gone Baby Gone, which is my personal favorite Ben Affleck movie. Now I started Argo again, but I've seen that before. And then I watched The Town, which I was a little underwhelmed by because that was the one that people talk about being great. And I thought Gone Baby Gone was the real special one.
I,
But
I
I
agree.
I still haven't seen Live by Night either, which I know you haven't seen either.
Yeah, no, is that's the one where he's like a gangster or whatever, I think. He has like the white suit on the cover of it.
Mhm, I know because I was watching your video and you were like, "Oh, he did something else," but no one really liked it, so I didn't see it. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Same."
Yeah.
But this one is like a dad movie. Like it's such a TNT on a Sunday afternoon. Like a lot of people are comparing this to Moneyball, and I love Moneyball. I think that's like one of the best sports movies of all time. And I think that's a little like demeaning to Moneyball because Moneyball is like actually great, and this is just like really good, like solid, good time.
Yeah.
Because Moneyball actually has like themes, but outside of just like the underdog, we're gonna believe in him, and I don't know. I had a good time with Air, but I don't think it's gonna be nominated for any awards or anything, or really stick with people at all.
No, there was fun cinematography. They did some fun stuff with the camera every now and then, but it wasn't anything that memorable. It almost
Mm-hmm.
kind of felt like Steven Soderbergh in a way,
Mm-hmm.
not even as dynamic as him. And there, I mean, it was the mainly further thing for me, like I was saying, was the cast. The shoe stuff and them kind of creating it and all the dialogue was really fun too. Jason Bateman kind of stole the show for me a lot of times too. Kind of him
Mm-hmm.
and Chris Tucker were the main people for me that surprised me the most.
Mm-hmm. Viola Davis, I think, is the only person that could possibly get like a supporting actress nomination, especially if it's a very uncompetitive category this year. And
Yeah,
I think my personal standout, which I'm biased because Ben Affleck's one of my favorite actors, but Ben Affleck is Phil Knight, and this was like so funny, especially
yeah.
with like the jogging thing, like that cracked me up. I think Matt Damon does a really good job at playing Matt Damon. And I agree, Jason Bateman was really good in his few scenes that he had to shine. Chris Tucker, and then even Marlon Wayans, I thought was okay, which I'm not a fan of him.
Yeah, I really enjoyed his scene too. He didn't have a whole lot to do, but the only really movie I can think of that he really surprised me into was, have you ever even seen it, Requiem for a Dream?
Yeah,
Yeah,
good
that's
movie.
yeah, that's where he really shines in. And this is the first time where I can say that even with the limited time he had, I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoyed his little dialogue and his back and forth with Matt Damon. Even though
Mm-hmm.
it felt like, and I can't remember, but the camera almost felt like out of focus in a few shots in that bar scene. I don't know if it was
Mm-hmm.
just me, but there were certain technical things that I didn't really love. But yeah, I after Ben Affleck playing Phil Knight, I don't know a whole lot about him, but after seeing his performance, I want to learn more about him just from his eccentric and the way he dressed and everything. Like it made me
Mm-hmm.
just love the guy. And I was like, I want to know more about this guy and the way
The
he
car.
created. Yeah, the car was fantastic. But yeah,
Uh,
you touched on Viola Davis, and I totally forgot that she was in this movie because she almost like is in her own movie with just how fantastic she is. Like she only has like two real big dialogue heavy like monologues, but both times, even with the limited screen time she has, are both like dynamic and you really feel like she is the mom that you don't want to fuck with, really. And Matt Damon is basically playing like I kind of said it. I don't know if I said it in my review, but he's kind of playing the same character he did in Ford v Ferrari, honestly, when he's playing Shelby.
Exactly, hit the nail on the head. No, I enjoy this movie. I think it's funny. I think every single person's dad is going to be like, the soundtrack was so good, and like not in like a because it came out the same weekend as Mario, and Mario had songs in it where I was like, oh, like we didn't need that right there. But this one we needed it. We really needed it, and it worked very well. I'd say I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a 4 out of 5. Definitely closer to a no, it's a perfect 4 out of 5. Like it's not exceptional in any way, and it's better than just a good time. So I guess it's closer to a 3, but 4 out of 5.
I also gave it a 4 out of 5 right out of the theater, so I think we're on the same page here. It's a really fun movie. Check it out if you're a fan of that, if like sports, kind of like not even really drama, kind of just like a sports story in a way.
Oh, it's a comedy for sure. There's so many times where they're like, John Stockton, no one's ever gonna want to draft him. Like
Oh
Charles
yeah,
Barkley, no one wants to watch that guy on TV. Like, there's some things that I'm like, you kind of got to be a sports person to really appreciate the joke and understand. Like, you will pick up from context clues that, like, Charles Barkley, he must be the guy who's on there now, and that's why they're making this joke. But it's not like funny. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, you might get it, but it's not funny. So, yeah, dad movie, 100%.
All right. Yeah, it's definitely a dad movie. But speaking of, we actually talked about it a little bit in there. You mentioned the movie, so we'll just jump right into it. The Super Mario Bros. Movie came out the same weekend as Air, and this shit is dominating the box office. It's still number
Mm-hmm.
one this weekend, even though more movies came out, including Evil Dead
Mm-hmm.
Rises, which we'll get to. It
Mm-hmm.
actually, like, Evil Dead Rises is number two. This weekend, at least it's not the actuals, but just the predictions I saw on Box Office
40.
Mojo, it was at the 50. It was 52 was Mario this week. And I think Evil Dead was at like 23. It like doubled Evil Dead that came out this weekend. And Mario's on
Mm-hmm.
its fifth weekend now.
Fifth weekend. No, it came out. It came out on a Wednesday. I know that, but then
Third weekend?
third weekend. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it was Renfield and then it was this week.
Yeah, third weekend. And I think it's already like well into breaking worldwide records too.
I think this weekend it crossed 1 billion.
Crazy. And I mean, in my opinion, I know you're a little bit more down on it than I am, but I gave it a 5 out of 5 because I personally had a really fun time with it. Yes, the soundtrack you talked about was my only real gripe with the movie. I didn't really like the soundtrack. I thought it was really kind of pointless in a way. The thing I liked more about the music is the way they used the soundtrack from the actual video game and kind of played with it a little bit in the scenes. And I thought that was
The
much better
score's good.
than
Yes.
yeah, it was much better than the stupid pop soundtrack that they tried to include in a lot of the scenes, and I wish they was kind of stuck to that a little bit more. But with the animation overall, I
Mm-hmm.
thought was really awesome, and the story, while people are saying it's not that big and it's not that new or anything, it is the
Mm-hmm.
story of the video game that they kind of have already done. So it kind of makes sense that they went with that. But the major shining point for me in here was the voice cast, not Chris Pratt in a way. Like Chris Pratt was fine. I thought he was much better than a lot of people probably were thinking going in. But my favorite especially was Keegan Michael Key as Toad. I thought he was hilarious, and
Mm-hmm.
just the way Toad was playing around and his loyalty was just so funny. And
Mm-hmm.
Jack Black as Bowser, I thought was so awesome. Just in his song Peach, I watched the video that they actually put out on YouTube a few weeks ago, just
Mm-hmm.
recently. That I'm gonna watch that so many times because the song's been stuck in my head since then. And while I don't think it should win the Oscar, I wouldn't be upset if it did just because it's so funny. But
Mm-hmm.
I really had a lot of fun with this movie, and it was one I went and saw with my brothers, people I've been playing Mario games with since we've been kids. So we all had a great time watching it together. So that probably played a big part into my enjoyment, and we're really excited to show our niece too. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's just it is a family movie for me that it's probably just getting that extra from that.
Mm-hmm. I like how you went on the defense right away. You were like, before you say it, I loved it. It was great. It's a
I've
5 out of 5.
I've seen your Twitter and I've seen the way you've talked about this movie, so I just have to defend it before you come at me.
All right, so let me set this record straight. Okay, guys. I watched Spider-Man No Way Home. That was the most popular movie of 2021. And I gave it a good review, but I couldn't stand it. And then 2022, we had Top Gun Maverick, most popular movie of the year. I gave it a good review, couldn't stand it. And I just knew I was destined once again to have the most popular movie of the year annoy me to my core. Now, remember, I work at a theater, right? So I'm constantly surrounded by and ingrained with whatever is the most popular thing of the year. So it really weighs on me after a while. And I watched Mario at a press only screening, thank God. And I had a really good time. I did not disenjoy my experience whatsoever, like I did with No Way Home and like I did with Top Gun Maverick. I didn't enjoy those. I walked out of those and I was like, I didn't really like that. I think it's all right, but I didn't like it, like personally. But I walked out of Mario being like, yeah, that was funny. That was really funny, and the animation was really good. And those are my two things. Well, I have a third thing, but two things that I think really stood out here was the animation. I think this movie benefits heavily from coming out post Sonic the Hedgehog because they were like, oh, people just wanted to look like exactly like it looks like in the game. Like, no, don't make any like creative decisions. Just do exactly what they did in the game, and thank God. The second thing was the sense of humor. This movie is actually legitimately really funny throughout. It's 90 minutes long, which that's nice, but I'm laughing from beginning to end. That's great. And the other thing that you said that I'm going to agree with is Jack Black steals the movie. He's fantastic in it. I don't think the Peaches song would exist if Jack Black didn't exist. I bet he was just fucking around on set and just started like peaches, 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 and they were like, "Oh, let's do a song. That'll be so funny."
Yeah,
And I think he's actually the only character I really cared about and was invested in. Now, everything else that you said, I disagree with. I do.
bullshit.
I do. I'm so sorry because like people came out and they were like, there was a very famous meme where people were like, "It's the Mario movie. You want it to be deep like a Pixar movie. You want the story to be
No, I don't want
good."
it to be a Pixar movie. Fuck that.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think Pixar movies are really deep. I think that they're just like
Some are,
competent. But I will say that the story, you do not get a pass from me for being like, well, they just did the story from the games. Lego movie is a fantastic movie. The plot's great. Yeah, it's just the Matrix, but that's fine. Bare bones, I'll take it. I'm emotionally invested in that movie, those characters, and what's going on. And at the end of that movie, I'm feeling something. I think I cried with the whole Will Ferrell and his kid situation. Like I'm emotionally invested here. I'm not emotionally invested in anything that's going on in Mario. And Mario has source material with a
well, that's
narrative in it.
that's just where
Lego
we
does
are.
not.
We are very different people because I was emotionally invested in Mario because I have a history with the Mario game,
I
and
do.
I
I played them my
loved.
whole life.
So have I, and that's why I just loved watching it on a big
Mm-hmm.
screen and actually seeing a competent movie about Mario that's not just someone using the IP of Mario and making shit up as they go and making a
It
very
is
strange
competent. I
movie.
will admit it is a competent movie. It's fine. I just think there is things that can be cynical
But what
about
do you
it.
want different about this Mario movie that would make it this better 5-star movie for you? That's what I really am
The voice
curious about.
cast. I can't stand anybody besides Jack Black. I think
That's
Chris Pratt.
that's insane
Like
to
it's
me.
so. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Keegan Michael Key was fine. I think he was actually trying to do a voice. I think Anya Taylor Joy was just Anya Taylor Joy. Charlie Day was fine for the 5 minutes he was in the movie, and then Chris Pratt stinks. Obviously, I don't like how they did the little commercial at the beginning, and they're like, "See, he can do the voice. We just didn't want him to do that the whole time." And it's like, I
I
don't
thought
know.
it
I
was more
just
that they just made that as a joke to make you think he was going to do the Italian voice and then change it up. I thought that was actually pretty funny to me.
Oh no, I'll defend him because he came out and was like, "Oh, it's a movie you got to watch multiple times because not for like to understand the plot, like a Beau is afraid. It's like you got to watch it so that you can like soak in those voices and be like, all right, fine, it's the way that it is, and now let's watch it again, knowing that that's the way that it is. And I do think that it's fine. I just I don't know. It's
Yeah,
good. I'm not
I mean,
anti this movie.
no, I
I
mean,
just don't think that it's like a perfect movie.
yeah, for me it is. I mean, I don't see
Mm-hmm.
anything that I would want to change about it. I loved the cast, Charlie Day. Yeah, Anya Taylor-Joy was
Mm-hmm.
basically Anya Taylor-Joy, but Princess Peach also is just Princess Peach in the games too. Like she's basically like stolen by Bowser 90% of the time in the regular Mario games. So
She's a
it's good
girl
that
boss here, though.
I'm about to say it's good that she actually got to do more shit in this story, honestly. So it was cool to see that. But yeah, I mean, I think we're just gonna have to agree to
Mhm.
disagree. We both enjoyed it, but I just can't
No,
see
it's
anything
good.
wrong
It's a
with it.
good movie. I
And
think it's
honestly,
good.
with this, I know you don't like all these built out franchises and everything, but I want to see
Mhm.
more Nintendo movies. I want to see a Legend of Zelda
Yeah.
movie. I want to see like a
Yeah,
Luigi's
that would be good.
Mansion.
I would really like that.
Luigi's Mansion, even with Charlie Day, I think would be a ton of fun. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of stuff they can do, even like a Metroid stuff. Like I don't know a whole lot about video games, but Nintendo is where I mostly lie. So I know a little bit about that stuff, and I would just love to see these really famous IPs finally get in front of more eyes because Nintendo is so weird about all of their stuff and not letting people do stuff with it, especially since I think that Mario movie that came out back in the 90s really kind of soured them because they changed up everything so much. They're like, nobody gets to touch our stuff anymore. But now that Illumination kind of, and I'm really crazy to say this because I'm not a huge Illumination person, but I'm really happy that they did this well, and I welcome them to actually do more stuff, which is insane to say.
I will say Bob Hoskins is my Mario. I will say that, like, because I rewatched the '90s movie, and like it's insane watching that now, and like
No,
it does make the new one better.
you gotta watch the
What?
old TV show. That is your Mario.
Yep, I watched that one as well. I
That is
did.
the
I
Mario.
see. I grew up with this stuff because
Me too.
like my roommate's a big video game guy, and he's like, "Well, it's not really that important." And I'm like, "Yes, it is. I watch Mario. I'm a Mario fan." I will say that I think that it's a fun time. You know, it's intended for family audiences. I will ask you a question real quick. Do you think that the Super Mario Brothers movie will get nominated for Best Animated Feature at this year's Oscars?
Honestly, I think there is a very big chance that it will be. Especially
Mm,
with this breaking the records it has been. The Oscars are very, very big on the money it makes and everything and the cultural impact it has. And
mm,
because it's breaking all these records and people are still going to see it and talking about it, it's probably going to because they're going to see it at the end of the year and they're going to be like, oh, yeah, remember when that movie was doing all that stuff? And unless there's a big, huge animated movie to come out that really stir that conversation up, I have a big feeling that it could stomp in there and maybe even run away with the prize.
I will actually take the opposite side. Surprise. Frozen 2, similarly, big box office, big cultural impact. Everyone saw it, everyone loved it, and it has Disney behind it. And that did not get nominated for Best Animated Feature. I don't think this will either. I will say, to defend the Mario movie, I think that the Rotten Tomato score is a bit too low. It's a 3 at worst. I think it's a fine movie. But I can see, especially with that critic score being so low, I don't care if audiences love it 96%. I think that this will not get nominated, especially with stuff like Elemental, Wish. I think TMNT has a bigger chance of getting nominated than this.
I hope you're right because I do
Mm.
hope that TMNT is a really great movie, but I don't know, man. I just have a feeling it could really sneak in there. Or even if it doesn't get that one, Jack Black sneaking in for an original song would just be really, really awesome.
I love that song. I've listened to it a million times. I know all the words by heart. I don't think there's a chance.
I
I don't.
want
I can't see them doing
for
it.
comedic value, I just really wish if they don't nominate it, at least let them perform it at the Oscars.
Like when Cocaine Bear showed up.
Yeah. I mean, if they do
Yeah.
something that dumb, they can do something better than dumb, at least entertaining.
hmm But other than that, though, this is one of the movies that's on your list, and you are kicking my butt because this certainly has made over $100 million domestically, and I think it's about 45% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I think
So
so. I haven't checked back in a while, but I want to say that's pretty accurate.
I got it right now. But you are have a commanding lead over me because Creed 3 made $100 million domestically. I'm pretty sure. Scream 6, I'm pretty sure did.
Yep.
And now you have 50. Oh, Mario went up to a 59%, which is, I think, an appropriate score for it. So you would have 59 extra points.
Hell yeah.
And you're about to get more when Guardians of the Galaxy comes out in
Yep.
a couple weeks from now. So you are a very commanding lead in this race. So that was a great pick by you.
Yes. I had a feeling it would. I didn't know it would be this big by any means, but
Oh, I
with
knew.
it with it being Mario, it made sense. I just yeah, and with that Rotten Tomatoes score, as I have my rose-colored glasses on, being a lover of the movie, that does
Mm-hmm.
make sense for the whole consensus of the film community that would rate it. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. No, I think good movie. I gave it a 4 out of 5. That's a very positive score. 4 out of 5. Rotten Tomatoes would say that I'm overrating the movie. Mario fan Adam.
Well, another movie that I gave a 4 out of 5 that a lot of people might say that I'm overrating is
Mm-hmm.
Renfield. Because I
Mm-hmm.
actually had a lot of fun watching that movie. I went and saw it with my parents, and I honestly think they actually enjoyed it more than I did. My dad's a huge like Universal horror guy. He loves like the Frankenstein, Dracula movies, and he watched them growing up. And in turn, I watched them growing up with him. So that kind of stuff and seeing Nicolas Cage really lean into that old style and the way they kind of used the old footage and did like the lighting across Nicolas Cage's eyes. Like they did a lot of stuff to really like pay tribute to all of those old style movies, as well as incorporating a lot of really funny comedy in here and the really violent stuff that I really wasn't expecting going into it. Like I was expecting it to be more of a comedy, especially from the trailers, but it got pretty gory, and honestly with the gore came the comedy with a lot of stuff in it, and I had a lot of fun with it. Was it
Mm-hmm.
perfect? No. Aquafina, her whole character, as much as I enjoy her in other things, especially her show on Comedy Central, Nora from Queens, I think is really funny, but her whole character in this movie, if you would have just took her out of it, it wouldn't change it, I don't think, at all. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, with that, I think Nicholas Holt and Nicolas Cage are having a lot of fun with this one, and in turn, I had a lot of fun with it too.
I think that's a great way of putting it, especially for Nicolas Cage. He was having a great time. I'm having a great time. Every time he did this move, like
Yeah,
I laughed so hard.
yeah,
I think it's generally really funny. I did enjoy the romance. I think it wasn't just like I'm hot and she's hot and we're hot. It was more like they had a common like internal struggle that they bonded over,
that's
and I
true.
really enjoyed that. Aquafina has a tendency to be annoying in these bigger type movies like this, but I thought that she was all right here. Nicholas Holt's playing Nicholas Holt. I wasn't really impressed, but he's fine. He's good. And Nick Cage, like I said, I'm a big Nick Cage fan. And the only problem I have is that I feel like this movie kind of like is leaning too much into the bit. Whereas like Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent leaned so much into the bit that it was like great. Like it crossed the line of like, into like, yeah, this really works because it's all about the Nick Cage personality persona that we know and love. Whereas this is like, isn't he wacky? But
Yeah.
I do think that especially a lot of the makeup that they did with him was great. And I really want to echo what you said about the action sequences. There was one in particular. My audience was hooting and hollering. Like this is a good fun time at the movies.
Yeah, I can echo that too. My audience was definitely really excited with some of like the arm stuff. That's all I'll say. I don't want to spoil anything, but
Mm-hmm.
the way they use different things in this movie and just yeah, how violent it got. Like I was expecting it to be much more tame than it was. So if you're going into it not being as much of a gore person, go into it knowing that you might get scared just a little bit while you're laughing. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it made it more fun because yeah, the audience participation and everyone kind of not like yelling at stuff, but reacting as not like like shit like that, like just having a visceral reaction to things. It's fun and it kind of adds to that communal experience. And yeah, this is the kind of movie to have fun with. And another person I really liked in here too, I just want to say real quick, Ben Schwartz is the kind of like side mobster guy. I thought he was really fun because he doesn't really get to play a bad guy that often, but it was pretty fun and he really leaned into the whole goofy part of that bad guy too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think that, like I said, a great mixture of comedy, horror, and action here. I'm at a 3 out of 5. I think it's a good time. My critic friends that I was with really didn't like. We had a bad experience. Someone talking behind us in the movie, but they were all like, "Oh, it's bad," and I'm like, "You guys just don't like it because it's not a blockbuster franchise sequel." Which I will say. I mean, yes, it's based off of like the Dracula character, but it's not like really trying to sell itself on some brand recognition here. You know,
No.
he's just a it's just a vampire lackey basically, and I think it's really refreshing to see a movie that doesn't have the number 2 in the title. You know.
No, while it is playing with, like I was talking about, the universal horror stories, it's very much its own thing, and it kind of
Mm,
takes that and just totally puts it in its own world, especially adding all that comedy element to it. And that's really what sells it here. If you're a fan of Nicolas Cage and you like him just smiling and doing the goofiest things on camera while still making a really good movie, in my opinion, go see Renfield. It's a really fun time, especially in a theater packed full of people. It's a really good experience.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like the director Chris McKay who did the Lego movie. I would like to see him do more things.
Yeah, especially with the horror comedy stuff. I love horror comedy. So, and he really kind of nailed it, especially with balancing all of that at the same time.
Hmm. So that's all I have to say about the movie. I'm at a 3 out of 5. Any final thoughts for me?
Nah, 4 out of 5 for that one.
I definitely think it's closer to a 4 than it is a 2. I don't think it's bad at all.
Yeah.
But speaking of some horror, and forget the comedy, let's get right into horror. We've got Evil Dead Rise, which is the fifth film in the Evil Dead franchise. And there's also a show, Ash vs. the Evil Dead.
Yep.
But I'm a pretty big Evil Dead fan. I love Sam Raimi. I've seen the first movie a million times, and I love the original trilogy. I think that the remake is pretty solid as well. It's definitely my fourth favorite out of those.
Hmm.
But this new one, we are ditching the cabin in the woods. There is no more Ash. There is a family instead of some college kids, a family in an apartment building, and they are confronted with the Evil Dead. How did you feel?
I actually just watched it this afternoon, and I had a really fun time with it. At the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I can say that it's probably my least favorite of the franchise. But I did enjoy the things they tried to go for. I liked the refreshing setting outside of the cabin in the woods, bringing it into a town. I feel like some of the settings and some of the more creepier moments I might be thinking about as I'm walking around my house at night. And some of the
Mm-hmm.
shots are more familiar to you rather than going out to a cabin in the woods and experiencing it like that. But it's just at times it almost felt like this is a fan film of Evil Dead at parts of it because they do all the shots that you're very Sam Raimi spinning the camera around and making it POV from the Deadite spirit type thing. And
Mm-hmm.
while all of it's really cool, it almost felt cheesy at times and almost took me out of it. And the main thing I really didn't like at the same time too was it felt like I loved the opening and I think that opening title reveal at the big opening was like one of my favorite title
Yep.
reveals ever.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, it just felt like we ran too fast into the horror stuff and all of the characters that I was supposed to care about, like this family with their dad leaving and everything, it was almost barely talked about, and we just jump right into it. And honestly, especially with the two older siblings, I felt like I didn't really know those characters at all and didn't care about them. So there was a lot of things that like they could have done a little bit better here and there, but at the same time, the gore is all really fun. The kills are gnarly, and that's what you're there for with Evil Dead stuff. And with that, they really nail it. And it's really fun at the same time. Like there are a lot of gripes I can have with it, but I still really had a great time with it.
So one of the things I love about the Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead, is that it's so independent and beautiful. Like they shot that movie in the middle of nowhere with a limited cast, and it was like a disgusting area
Oh yeah.
because they had to because they didn't have any money.
No.
So when I watch this movie and it opens up with the Warner Brothers logo, the new fresh Warner Brothers logo, it's like it really kills that vibe entirely. So you do not get credit from me, not you, the movie. You do not get credit from me for having, oh, it's all in one location and it's just this one little family. When it's like, oh, you're a big studio and you have a bunch of money, you're just trying to capitalize on brand IP. I'm very cynical about this movie. So the other thing I want to bring up is there's two big differences that you brought up between this movie and the original movie, and I think both of them are for the worse. I think instead of this creepy and mysterious cabin in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere where no one can hear you scream, we're in an apartment building, and instead of a bunch of cool like young college students, they're all very attractive and they're all like sneaking off to go have sex with each other and whatnot, and instead of that, it's just a family. And like I like this family, and I thought I vibed with them, and I thought that they all had personality, but I just think that like it's just worse in every way.
No, yeah, I agree with you there, like 100%. That's one thing me and my brother actually talked about leaving the theaters. Like
Mhm.
this year or the last few years, horror has been centered around a lot of family stuff, and where there are a lot of other movies where I enjoy it. This one I kind of miss, like you were saying, like the teenage college type of feeling of it. Like even if they would have done like a college dorm type thing and done more of that kind of thing, I feel like would have been better than this in a way. Because the family stuff, like I was saying, I didn't give a shit about the two older siblings. They really didn't. I didn't know anything about them that much. And the whole like dad story, they literally say it in like one scene, never really tell us what the dad did or anything, and then never talk about the dad ever again. And it's kind of like a
Mhm.
throwaway thing, and I kind of was disappointed in that. But at the same time, it's an Evil Dead movie, so I don't really like, I'm not harping on that stuff too much
Mhm.
because I did have a lot of fun with the other stuff that was present. Is it the goriest Evil Dead movie? I don't think so. But I thought they did a lot of fun stuff with the different kills that they did and the different clever things, like the mom character with her creepy stuff, and then she was saying in the hallway and everything. Like I really enjoyed those scenes. And like the little girl made me laugh a lot too, a little bit of comic relief that was in here, but it was pretty dark and kind of, while it sticks to the same tone of the original movies, I did miss a lot of the Sam Raimi touches that are really in there and needed to be in there. And honestly, if they continue this, which I wouldn't be mad if they did, I kind of want Ash to come back, and he's kind of said that he'd like to finish with one big movie again, and I think that's kind of necessary for this movie because I don't, while I liked some of the characters, I don't think I would watch a whole nother movie with just them.
I will say that to defend the dad point, I think that the main character is the groupie sister. So the dad thing is very much so a background thing that's just setting the stage for what's going on in this family's lives and why they are emotionally where they are at. I don't think it's like gray or deep or anything. I will agree with you that while they do make effort to be zany and crazy like Sam Raimi, it feels like they're trying really hard, whereas Sam Raimi it just feels like effortless and like they wanted to do this. You know, it just feels like here it's like, oh, well, it's Evil Dead, so we got to make it weird.
Yeah.
And I'm just very, it's very uninspired. Like I love that title opening sequence. I thought it was gonna be so good. And then once we started to get to like, one by one, they're all dying. I was just like, oh, okay. And then the ending, like, no, there's a chainsaw because it's Evil Dead. Like, oh, it's like their lightsaber. I will say I don't really want another Evil Dead movie where Bruce Campbell comes back. I think he's too old and it would make me sad. Unless you like leaned into the do you ever see Bubba Hotep?
I know about it. I haven't actually watched it, but I do think that they would do something like that. Like I don't think that he wants to live through another Evil Dead movie. I think he wants to like pass off and actually die and stuff like that and make a big movie like that. But yeah, I don't think that it would be like a whole nother big story. I think it would be almost like they've doing with a lot of different sequel movies where they're killing off the main character
Well,
to
I'm
pass
saying I
on.
wouldn't mind if we like were set in an old folks home and in the kind of like off in the middle of nowhere, right? And then he's in there in the old folks home and the Evil Dead start to rise and he has to take them down and we're just mowing down all these old people,
Well, and I think,
creepy old people.
have you seen any of the Ash versus Evil Dead show?
No, not at all.
So that's kind of what they did in a way, because
Oh my god.
he's actually living in a trailer by himself, and he like, I forget what actually happens. I think he gets like drunk or something, and he has like the book like put away, and he like opens it up to like show somebody, and he like accidentally lets the shit go loose again,
Mhm.
and that's how the story like show starts up again. It's a great show, and if like it didn't get to finish all the way, and that's the sad part. Stars canceled it before it was ever done. So that's kind of where he's also said that he wants to be able to finish the story and make a movie to cap off Ash's story. But at the same time, if it's the ending with that show, it's a good ending for the most part. It's a fun story and it's a great show. You have to check it out as soon as you can.
I am a Bruce Campbell fan, and I love the original three Evil Dead movies. I'm gonna rewatch them soon. Actually, I'm mad that I didn't do it before. But this one, I'm uninspired. I mean, I'm at 3 out of 5. I think it's generally like fun and scary and creepy, and you get your blood and gore, all the things you want. It's only like 97 minutes. Like I think it's under 100 minutes,
Yep.
so it's fine. It's serviceable. It's whatever. But it just feels like, and then, the word "rise" in the title. Can we stop making movies with the word rise in the title? It's the most annoying cliche in movie title history. Like I
It
can't stand
was
it.
it was big building. That's what it was Rise. That's
No,
that's how
like
I
that, like the reveal of the title was cool. That was fine. Just the movie being
that
called Rise in any
yeah.
way sucks.
That was my favorite part, honestly, was the title coming up from the lake like that. Like I was like, this is so dope. I was like, this is my
Mhm.
favorite title like ever. But yeah,
Yeah.
at the same time, it is a very overdone use of that word. And I
Well, it
just
reminded me of Insidious. You know how Insidious used to be like, Bleh!
oh yeah, I love it. I can't
Mhm.
wait for the new Insidious movie. But yeah, Evil Dead, it is what it is. I think I gave it a 4. It's kind of closer to a 3.5 if I'm being honest, but
Mhm.
I enjoyed it. I love the Evil Dead movies, similar to yourself. I love Evil Dead 2 the most, I think, but I just watched Evil Dead 1 the other day and it's still a 5-star movie for sure. They're all
I
pretty
agree.
high up. I enjoy the series so much, but yeah, this one's definitely at the bottom and I'm gonna watch it again, but I don't think I'll rewatch it as often as I watched the other ones. But if they did make another one, I would watch it, I think. I
Mhm.
love
And
these
sorry, what was
movies.
your rating again?
I put it at a 4, but at the same time, like I might bump it down to a 3.5 eventually on rewatch.
Hmm. Yeah, but yeah, three star for me. Good. It's fine. It's passable. I'll never think about it again or really ever want to go out of my way to watch it. Anything else to say about the movie?
Nah, I'd rather talk about this other one that I saw a few days ago, actually. The one
Hmm.
that's not necessarily a horror movie, but it's very fucking unsettling. We can say that. And it is
Hmm.
the new Ari Aster movie, Beau is Afraid.
Hmm.
And I just want to start off by saying I think this might be Joaquin Phoenix's like best role. When it
Hmm.
comes to all the stuff he had to do and the just insane things that happen in this film, I thought he did fantastic and I really just enjoyed the hell out of it.
Hmm. So I
So,
don't know if you can tell. I know it's hard to tell, but I went to the press screening and I got this bad boy.
I did not notice that. I love it.
Yeah, it's like his like pajama outfit,
Yeah.
and like I thought that was a really cute touch. But I watched this, yeah, press screening IMAX Point Orlando, and I went back and rewatched Hereditary and Midsummer before watching this, and I watched all of his other shorts too, like the strange thing about the Johnsons and whatnot.
Yeah, that one
And
I've watched all of them except for a couple of them, but that one is definitely the most memorable one.
did you see the cop one about the shrinking dick?
Yes.
Dude, that one's insane. It was so funny.
Yeah.
But are you more of a Midsummer Hereditary guy?
Um I really enjoy both. Both of them are 5 stars for me, but
Me
when it
too.
comes to pure horror, I think Hereditary is a bit scarier. I haven't
Hmm.
watched that. I haven't rewatched that one as recent. I watched Midsummer the same day I watched Beau was Afraid.
Hmm.
And while I do really love that one, and there's a lot of unsettling stuff,
Hmm.
Hereditary has still just disturbed me ever since I seen it in theaters. I saw it blindly when I saw it when I lived in Florida, actually. Had no idea
Hmm.
what the movie was about. I saw it on like a Sunday morning, and the whole theater was just silent through a lot of it, and it was insane.
Yeah, I'm upon rewatch. I've said I'm more of a Midsummer guy. I think it really comes down to which powerhouse female lead performance do you like more, Toni Collette or Florence Pugh, not Frances McDormand.
Yeah,
But I would go with Pugh in this scenario. Just her like screaming, crying is like so impactful. And then the ending, like the good for her ending, I really enjoy. And it's also like funny. You know, Hereditary is not really funny, but like Midsummer has some really comedic moments, and I just think that it's more of a unique setting and storyline compared to Hereditary, which kind of feels like another like haunted house type of possession type movie.
yeah.
But I think it's splitting hairs. And I will say that after watching Beau is Afraid, I still like both of those more than this. But just like with both of those other movies, I had to watch it multiple times before I was like, all right, I get it. It's great. Because Beau is Afraid is currently sitting at a 4 for me. But I was just talking to my roommate and I was like, I need to go rewatch this if you want to go see it again. Because this
Oh
is
yeah.
such an in depth and overwhelming experience.
So much going on in the foreground, in the background, so much stuff. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it really needs a rewatch. And I gave it a 5 star right away just because I enjoyed the hell out of my experience. There was no one that really, it seemed like the whole audience was like laughing at the parts that were funny, just out loud cringing at things that were some of the craziest things I've seen in a long time, if I'm being honest, when it came to the different things that I couldn't even imagine before I saw them and
Mm-hmm.
just the places this goes. And it's just so much fun, and it's just a strange experience. It's not necessarily horror, it's not necessarily a full-on comedy, it's not necessarily anything. It kind of stays in the middle of just being this weird amalgamation of a story, and it kind of like I said in the my review actually on Letterboxd, it's the strangest adaptation of the Odyssey, like the Homer Odyssey story that I've ever seen in my entire life, because he really just goes on this strange journey of this man who was beaten down by his basically his mother, and life beating him down and everything like that, and him trying to navigate his way of getting back to her. And it's such a unique but strange experience that yes, it needs to be rewatched, because there's just so much that happens in that 3 hour period that I'm a guy that always has to go to the bathroom multiple times during a 2 hour movie. I did not want to leave, nor did I leave my seat during this movie because it was just too much.
I will say that my audience was very telling with this movie because there was like it was full, but there was like 3 to 6 people who this was the funniest movie they've ever seen in their lives. Like they were cackling, dying, laughing like uncontrollably throughout. But the rest of the theater absolutely silent. Like this movie is very niche and I don't think it's going to work for everybody, but I think if
Yeah.
if you know what you're getting yourself into and if you vibe with it, you're going to absolutely love this one.
Yeah, if Twitter is anything, this movie is very much of that. There are people
Mm-hmm.
that think this is like one of the worst movies ever made and think that Ari Aster has fallen off as a director. And then there are people that are more towards our end, especially me, that are like, this is the best thing ever. This is so much fun, and I can't wait to rewatch it again. And yeah, I'm very much in that camp of this is just insane. And my theater definitely was more in on the thing and everything, because even the part where I don't know if you noticed who the UPS guy was in that scene that found his
The
mom or whatever.
UPS guy wasn't it Bill Hader?
It was Bill Hader. And even
Mm-hmm.
when he just barely showed his face for a second, my crowd, there was like 5 or 6 people at least that were like, ha ha ha, because they knew it was Bill Hader. Everyone else didn't. So there was a lot of people that were definitely more film people and just movie people, and were definitely in that sort of realm with us. So that was the fun part about my audience, I think, too. But there were definitely people that I can see despising this movie, thinking it's the longest movie they've ever seen, and that it's
Mm-hmm.
just the worst thing they've ever seen, and they hate everything about it. And honestly, they'd be valid in that opinion too, because there's just it takes you on the craziest journey that I think I've ever seen in a movie in quite some time.
Yeah, it's the kind of movie I want to take my dad to without telling him anything about it and just like have him not talk to me for a week.
I was about
Uh,
to say, if he didn't like Everything Everywhere All at Once, he would fucking hate this movie, I
because
think.
this is weirder. This is so much weirder. Like if you asked me to explain the plot of this movie, I really couldn't. Like, kudos to you for even attempting, because I have no idea what's going on. Like, if you ask me what's going on in the woods besides a play of sorts, no idea.
Yeah, it is weird. And it's very
Mm-hmm.
much, I think it's a lot to do with like the mentality of a person that's so beaten down by someone. It's hard to explain, but it's just that maternal love in a way that's so difficult to deal with, especially when that's so traumatic, and the way she like I don't know. I don't want to go into too much spoiler territory because I want people to go see this, but
Mm-hmm.
it's very much about mental health in a way, I think. And Ari Aster, I feel like this is like his therapy sessions that he's working through in some of these movies. And I'd honestly really love to like see a long-term interview of him like kind of speaking on these movies and kind of where he came from with writing them, because I feel like it's a very unique thing with him, because all of these movies come from very different points of grief and like sadness and depression. And it's pretty sad in a way. So I kind of want to know if he's okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm at the point with Ari Aster where, especially after watching his short films too, these have to be personal, or else Jesus Christ, he's a genius. There's so many specific like details and situations that I'm like, that's got to be pulled from your own personal life. And I genuinely believe at this point, Ari Aster has sexual issues with his mother. Like, there's no way that he doesn't, right?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. There's so much in this movie. The reveal in the
The attic.
the attic. Yeah, that is that is one of the craziest things I've seen in some time, and I was
But I
just
was so
smashed.
happy. Like I was so satisfied by that reveal,
Oh,
you know?
yes, so much. It was so gratifying. It was just, yeah, you gotta see this movie and try to see it as soon as you can with an audience, because a lot of these moments you just want to experience with other people just to like gauge the reaction of the room, because it'll be a unique experience for sure.
Yeah, I'm sold. I'm gonna rewatch it again because I was really kind of disappointed when I first saw it because I was like, "This is gonna be my favorite movie of the year." Because I think, despite my love for Cocaine Bear and M Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin, those are my only two 5-star movies of the year, and I really think I'm pushing it, calling both those 5-star movies. So I was really excited to have a new number one before Guardians inevitably takes it over for the entire year because I'm so predictable. But I think a rewatch will do plenty because the filmmaking on hand is fantastic. Actually,
Oh
there's
yeah,
one thing you brought up earlier I want to bring up. Do you think this is his best role, Joaquin Phoenix?
I do. Like I actually like I wasn't even that big on Joker. I really love his role in like Walk the Line as Johnny Cash more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Joker's like my number two, but I think
Mm-hmm.
Beau is Afraid is honestly my new favorite.
Dude, I'm a Joker guy. I like Joker. We live in a society, and I love his performance there.
I
And
love it
I
too.
I did rewatch Joker before watching this, and I will take that over this because a lot of this movie he's just like, well, because he's not a very verbal person, and he's just a lot.
No, it's the physicality for me though of him doing all the different things he had to do, especially with like the
He
tub scene,
sprints, you know.
and him having to run around so much. And there's so much going on in this
Mhm.
movie that he definitely it felt like he probably had to go to some really dark places mentally too, because he's a guy that really gets into roles. So I think it
Mhm.
was really interesting, and I think it's his best still. Like Joker is fantastic. I love it, and yeah, I love him as Johnny Cash. Walk the Line's like one of my favorite movies, but he's just a phenomenal actor. So honestly, they all are just great.
Not to mention he's awesome in Signs and in The Village. Those two movies are
Oh,
both really great.
oh, I agree 100%, man. Village. I need to rewatch The Village. I haven't seen it in so long.
Yes, you do. It's on my Voodoo, buddy. Go ahead and watch it
I
because M
will.
Night Shyamalan's the man. But so actually, okay, so this is your favorite Joaquin Phoenix performance. Is this your favorite Ari Aster movie? I don't know if you already said that.
It is not actually. It's probably still my least favorite, unfortunately, but
Um,
it's still a 5-star movie for me. And actually, I started my own rankings in Letterboxd. I've
mhm.
started putting my movies this year into rankings, and right now, Scream 6, I still love that movie a lot, but this is like tied basically at the number one spot of being my favorite of the year right now.
How many 5 out of 5s do you have? Because you have Scream, Mario, Beau,
And
and
Mario is really
then
far down, even though it is a 5 out of 5. I think it's even out of my top 10. Or
yeah, it was on my top 10 for a minute.
it might
Like at
be
the
my number 10 at the moment, actually.
I think Beau's at my like 6 because I still like John Wick more than this. Because I the more time that goes by, the more I'm like John Wick's phenomenal. Every movie should try to be like John Wick 4.
So yeah, the other 5 stars I have, I rated Megan 5 stars just because I really fucking loved that movie.
I don't blame you for that one. I don't blame you for that one more than Mario or Scream. I like Megan way more than both those.
And I don't think I've actually gave any other 5 stars this year other than those ones. 4.5's like A Good Person. I don't know if you got to see that one yet with Florence Pugh and Morgan Freeman. Zach Braff's new movie.
No, I want to though.
It is a very good movie about like drug addiction and stuff like that. It's a very touching movie. It's funny, but it also has a lot of moments. And the way it's shot, especially when like the girl is taking drugs and stuff like that, it like does some unique stuff visually that I thought was really fun. And it's not like the best thing ever, but it was really, really good. It's the
Mhm.
cast for me again for sure.
Yeah, I need to see like I didn't see Garden State or Wish You Were Here. So but I'm a Zach Braff fan. I did see all of Scrubs, so I enjoy him. But
Yeah, I love Scrubs, and Garden State is really good too.
do you have any final thoughts on Beau is Afraid?
No, like I said, it's really high up there, and it might be my favorite of the year right now. So I highly recommend checking it out.
I agree as well. I will say before we cap off this episode here, because I know we're on the clock, you brought up Requiem for a Dream earlier. I want to recommend a movie to you that I adored, an anime called Perfect Blue. Have you ever heard of it?
I have. It's in my list on the app Shudder, actually, which is a horror app. I have it on there. I have not watched it yet, but tell me a little bit about it because I actually have no idea what it's about.
Yeah, so Darren Aronofsky loves this movie. He was very inspired when he made Requiem for a Dream and also Black Swan. There's a lot of both those in here, and it's about like a pop star who decides to break away from her band and go into being an actress, like a serious actress. And she's getting haunted by a super fan who like masquerades as her on the internet, who's like coming after her. And also she's just struggling with like leaving that life and pursuing this new one, and she starts to lose grip with reality. And sometimes you don't know if you're watching a scene from a movie that she's filming or if you're seeing her real life happen, and she doesn't even know the difference at a certain point. And it's only like 81, 87 minutes. It's a really haunting movie, really harrowing, beautiful animation. I was a huge fan. 5 out of 5. I love it. See, I love things
Hell
from time to
yeah.
time.
I'm really excited now. I'll move that up to the top of my list and probably try to check it out even tomorrow maybe. Because
Mm-hmm.
that sounds pretty awesome to me. It sounds right up my alley, especially with like a horror animation. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't seen a whole lot of that lately, so I'm really
I,
interested.
I was inspired. Well, it made me think of like Hannah Montana and specifically the Jonas Brothers.
Oh hell yeah, I'm a big Joe bro.
With a minute left here, is there anything you want to recommend me?
Um, Definitely a good person for sure. Can't
Mm-hmm.
remember. Let's look. I watched Friday recently. I don't know if you ever watched Friday. That's
Oh,
a really
all
great
three.
movie.
The Friday after next and next Friday. I watched all of them. The first one's the only good one.
I like Next Friday a little bit too, but Friday After Next definitely is one to skip.
Oh, it's a Christmas movie, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Have you ever seen Grave of Fireflies, actually? We're talking about
Yes,
animation
that's
real
my
quick.
favorite anime movie, man.
I just, oh yeah, because it's in your voodoo. Of course you've watched it. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I just now watched that. Holy shit. I've never seen something so beautiful yet so sad.
It's so fucking
I
sad.
definitely like was on the border of tears at the end. I was like, this is so good, but I'm about to just lose it right now.
Dude, I cried in a movie theater, man. Like I was
Oh,
watching on my phone at work. But great movie. If you've not watched these awesome animes, go out and watch them. I am Adam. Go watch my channel, Hard Reviews, Steve.
yes, the film fan reviews, Evil Dead Rises review coming out very soon.
And mine, Beau is Afraid and Renfield are on their way. Thank you guys so much for watching. Go watch all of these movies and enjoy cinema.
Yes,